you for a fantastic round 10 clash between the Central Queensland Capras and the Luxury Paints Ipswich Jets. Great to have you with us on Phoenix Radio, phoenix.com.au.
Smith somehow right down the instant touchline, 12-4 the score with the first attacking opportunity the Capras had.
Welcome back to another episode of After the 80, your local source of everything rugby league. Joining me on the panel as always is the most faithful of Parramatta supporters, Anthony Bomber Breeze. Bomber, how was your weekend? Full of league?
Yeah, no, league at the local level, the Intrust level, the NRL level, and another loss for Parramatta, unfortunately, but we'll move on. Excellent. Well, it was a bumper week this week. Now, unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we don't have a guest with us this week, so we've opted for an NRL 360 feel this week. It's going to be a very up-close and personal take with just myself and Bomber. Now, over the weekend, the Ipswich Jets under-20s had their first win with a 1-point win over the East Tigers in the new under-20s pre-season competition. Bomber, how did the Jets under-20s come together to get their first win? Yeah, well, obviously Adam Botcher, the coach of the side there, will be very happy with his first win there. He had a couple of tough losses there, a couple of big losses there, but obviously the boys kept turning up for training there, and obviously he had a game plan there that obviously got him over the line. Obviously goal kicking got him home there. He scored 6 tries to 4, but the boot of Adrian Elder. Yeah, the captain stepped up. I heard he sealed the game with a field goal in the final minute. Yeah, the 69th minute there, he'd put 4 from 4 over from all the tries there, a couple of difficult ones there, and he got a penalty goal there in the 69th minute. Excellent. Slotted the field goal. So they've got one more game this weekend against the Western Mustangs. Will they take a lot of confidence out of getting their first win on the board? That's got to be a good step forward for the team. Yeah, well, the Western Mustangs haven't been going real flash either there, so the Jets should be able to get off another win here and finish that season with 2 wins in a row, which will be a big confidence booster for a lot of the players. So. And this is obviously the pre-season competition, so the real season will kick off in earnest after about a 3-week break. But do you think that this was a good chance for them to test out some other teams before the season starts? Yeah, well, obviously it was there. Obviously the Jets have got a lot of new players this year at the club, so. So obviously they've got a bit of a taste on what the Jets football like. Because obviously it's the next step up from the local competition. So they've come from an under-17 local comp into the more professional and harder working. And obviously Adam Botcher, who you spoke to during the week, would have been happy. So he was. It took a bit of the pressure off, and I'm sure he's going to go into the Easter break feeling a lot happier after getting that win up on the board. Well, moving on to round 6 of the Intrust Super Cup, and another loss for the Ipswich Jets at home at North Ipswich Reserve. The hard-working team of USQ were at the grounds bringing you all the action live via the Phoenix Media Hub. Unfortunately, the Jets went down by 2 points to the East Tigers in a fierce competition, which fittingly was the 4X rivalry round. Bomber, you're at the game, even though the Jets lost. Did you see an improvement in the game? Yeah, obviously I did there. The Jets seem to be getting better week in, week out, but it's just a couple of little things that they're just not doing, like the little 1%ers that do get you over the line. Like here, see, just an easy try from dummy half. He should have never scored that try at all. Just the little things there, and at that stage, that probably didn't lose them the game. But in the end, there, the little things like that obviously do. So. Well, last week they came from behind to really give the Redcliffe Dolphins a scare in the second half, and here in this game as well, it came down to a try by Richard Pandia in the final minute, and Wes Conlon unfortunately missing the conversion to possibly give them a draw in the end. But is it just a matter of the Jets unfortunately giving away too many points in the early stages of the game and then playing catch-up football for too much of it? Well, Higgin, that's what it seems like there. The first halves haven't been their best halves, and that's it. The catch-up football, unfortunately, if you play the Jet style of football, the catch-up football sometimes bit unusual there. We just saw Billy McConaughey putting a kick in through for Wes Conlon to pick it up. It's not too often you see a big forward like him putting in a very well-weighted kick into the line. Well, obviously he's been watching Dave Taylor. They've always said Dave Taylor's a back and a forward's body there, so... Unfortunately, there was Billy Walters as well, kind of stood up for the Tigers. He's a quality playmaker as well, and he made it hard for the Ipswich Jets. But I think, as we see here, we've got the try in the final minute to Richard Pandia, and it keeps him neck and neck with, I think, Michael Purcell for the Jets try scorers as well. Yeah, well, that's it. Richard had a couple of weeks off there, obviously with his injury there, but he'd come back. He's a fierce competitor there, and he plays the ball all the time there, and he's probably one of the the hardest running backs that the Jets do have. So,
would Ben and Shane be pretty happy with the fact that their team's competing right up until the last minute? As you said, with Richard, he's a fierce competitor as well, and scoring a try in the final minute. They're not giving up at all, are they?
Oh, well, I'd say they would be a little bit happy, but if you don't get the 2 points, you can't keep saying every week, oh, we're happy with the effort was good, the effort was good, the effort was good. The effort's got to be just a little bit more to get over the line, and until they get over the line, like they've had the one win, until they get over the line again, hopefully confidence will build from that next win. So hopefully it's this week. So.
Well, as we look at the ladder for the Intrust Super Cup as well, unfortunately, the results from the round of the Intrust Super Cup, but that's another loss to the Jets. Although good signs there with just a 2-point loss. Some other big results there was the Sunshine Coast Falcons getting a big win over the PNG Hunters, 38-14. The Townsville Blackhawks winning their local derby against the Northern Pride, 28-18, with two of the former Jets players starring in that game, with Khan Arwang and Carlin Anderson as well. Central Queensland Capras getting a good win over the Mackay Cutters, 38-22. And then as we turn to the Burleigh Bears and the Tweed Head Seagulls, it was Burleigh getting off the ground, as both teams were yet to score so far this season. That was their first win of the season. Yeah,
well, obviously it was a battle down there, being the rivalry round there, two fierce rivals down there on the Gold Coast. We actually have some footage here. It was right from the start there, it got a little bit physical, and but in the end, Burleigh got over the line. They got the bragging rights, and they move off the bottom of the ladder there and conceded Tweed to the bottom. So,
well, it's their first win since winning the Intrust Super Cup grand final last year, losing the state challenge, and then the first 5 rounds of the Intrust Super Cup. They'd be pretty happy to get off the duck there.
Yeah, well, obviously after winning the premiership there, the next year is going to be the hardest year, but most teams go all right there. Obviously, Burleigh have found it a little bit hard there when you lose your playmakers.
Like Jamal Fogarty.
Obviously, your playmakers are a big part of you, and obviously by losing them, they've just taken a while to get the new combinations there. So
it was a pretty spectacular try in the corner here with a very well weighted kick for Tweed Heads. And as we take a look at the ladder, unfortunately, it still leaves the Tweed Head team on the bottom of the ladder with yet to get a win, unfortunately. But the Jets aren't faring too much better, second from the bottom in 13th place with just the 2 points for their first win of the season, which was over the Tweed Head Seagulls. So see Redcliffe still sitting on the top there with the Sunshine Coast Falcons, and East Tigers just sitting right behind them.
Yeah, well, obviously Redcliffe, they're the form team at the moment. I've watched them a couple of times this year, and they just do everything right. Some of the players they've got in their team, they've just got a whole stack of experience in their team. Obviously, Benji was there for a while, obviously out injured now. South Logan, obviously, they're another team that are obviously a lot higher than what they have been in the last couple of years there. And the Sunshine Coast Falcons, obviously, with their thing with the Melbourne Storm has helped them, and PNG, they've been around about there, so they'll always be tough there. So, but unless the Jets start getting a win shortly there, unfortunately they're going to be on the right side of the ladder, which obviously we don't want them to be.
That's it. Well, hopefully they can get a win over the Northern Pride this weekend. Well, on Wednesday night, all of the Rugby League Ipswich teams played their catch-up games of round 3 after the wild weather from Cyclone Debbie postponed the games last weekend. Bomber, do you think it was hard for the teams to play 2 games in a matter of days?
Well, obviously the Wednesday games, they obviously all went in fresh because they would have had a week and a half, and obviously we saw the upset of the season there with the Eastern Cobras beating Brothers there. Swiss went down to Ougarou Field of Goodna there and defeated them, and Norths were at home to West End and give them a little bit of a touch-up. So.
Well, it's a second historic moment for the Eastern Cobras as well. They won their first game in the A-grade competition at the season opener, and this was their first win at home at Redbank Plains Recreational Reserve. Good start.
Yeah, well, it was a Wednesday night there, and they didn't think many people would turn up, but I was down there. There was a fairly good crowd down there, and they got a bit raucous, and obviously beating Brothers there, they're one of the powerhouses, so if you can beat one of them at home there, it obviously goes well for the rest of the season, that they are going to compete, and obviously they will. So.
Well, I talked to Brothers head coach Pat O'Doherty after the game, and he wasn't making any excuses for the Brothers team. He just said the Cobras really stepped up and really took it to them.
Oh, Brothers dropped a lot of ball, a lot of there, but all credit to the Cobras there. They got up in their faces there, got off the line quick and hit them hard and forced them into errors. So.
Well, it was another loss for the Goodna Eagles as well. Another premiers who've had a bit of a rough start to the season, like the Burleigh Bears have. But if we look at the games from round 4, they kicked off with a big loss to the Swifts Bluebirds at the hand of the Fassifern Bombers, going down 50-12 at Perga. Bomber, there was good news for the Goodna Eagles though. They finished their first win of the season as well.
Yeah, well, I ventured back down to Redbank again on Sunday there, and for probably 60 minutes of the game, it was an arm wrestle. While Laurie he wouldn't have been real happy. I did speak to him after the game. He wasn't happy with a lot of drop ball, and the cohesion wasn't there. But the last 20 minutes, Goodna just got on a roll, and they just couldn't be stopped. I think they scored about 4 tries in the last probably 15 minutes there, which blew the score out there. It says 42-14, but probably 26-14 would have been a more apt description of the game. So,
well, Norths were the lucky ones to get the bye, so they didn't have to back up a few days after the Wednesday catch-up round. But Brothers bounced back from that loss against the Eastern Cobras to put a 32-25 win over the West End Bulldogs. As we said, the Fassifern Bombers getting the 50-12 win, and the Goodna Eels getting their first win of the season over the Eastern Cobras.
Yeah, well, I did talk to the Swiss coach also there, and not that he was making any excuses there, but his team seemed a bit flat from during the week. Obviously, Fassifern didn't have to play Wednesday night. They come out all guns blazing. They were fresh, played for the 80 minutes, and basically ran over the top. Obviously, the few imports that they have got now had sensational games too. So Adam Perore and the Fijian centre they got, his name just eludes me at the moment, but he had a big game too. So.
Excellent. Well, as we look at the ladder for the Rugby League Ipswich competition, we've got Norths, Brothers and Fassifern all sitting on 10 points after the 4 rounds that we've played so far. Obviously, with points awarded for byes this year, it does keep the points a little bit closer as well. Yeah,
well, it obviously does there. You've got Norths, Brothers and Fassifern all up there. Brothers have had 3 wins. They haven't had their bye yet. So, so like you said, until the first round finishes, the ladder is a little bit skew-if as to where everyone is sitting on the ladder. So.
Well, up next we'll be talking about the Broncos and Roosters game at Suncorp Stadium on Thursday night. The big loss North Queensland suffered at the hands of the West Tigers, and an injury report on all of the teams in the NRL. All that and more here on After the 80. Welcome back to After the 80, your local source of everything rugby league. Last week, round 6 of the NRL kicked off at Suncorp Stadium with the Broncos getting a big needed win over the Sydney Roosters, 32-8. The Roosters were looking strong up until the last 20 minutes of the game that the Broncos kicked on the burners and scored back-to-back tries. Bomber, we were both at the game on Thursday night. What did you make of the Broncos' attack and defence?
Oh, mate, their attack really clicked into gear. Oh, they were just freaking awesome right from the start there. They just looked like they were in another level over the Roosters there. The Roosters hit back with 2 tries there and looked like they may be able to get into the arm wrestle, but then the Broncos seemed to click into another gear again. So.
Well, it was a big battle between 2 of the top sides. Broncos haven't gotten the competition points so far for the start of the season, only the 1 win, I think, but they've definitely been in every game. It was good to, I think their attack has definitely been what's let them down. They've been able to hold out teams, but haven't been able to give themselves much breathing room. And it did look a little bit dangerous here, as you said, with the Roosters kicking through. Scoring back-to-back tries to really put the Broncos back on the back foot after they looked strong in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, well once it got to 8-8 there, it was back even there. Even though the Broncos had more share of the ball and were looking a lot better to score tries there. 8-8 there, the Roosters would have been happy. Like the 25th minute, it's 8-8 there. Nice tight game. But
Sam Thaiday, after pushing Anthony Milford out of the way to get a try last week, he came up with the goods again on the back of an Anthony Milford ball, which showed great strength for the older fella as well.
Well, Big Sam, like forwards are not supposed to score too many tries. They're front rowers there, but Sam makes a bit of an art of it there. So.
And I think the big talking point for the Broncos as well was the form of Anthony Milford, our Ipswich player in the team. He really kicked into gear. He's got so much potential, and combined with Ben Hunt to really put them ahead, although this try was unfortunately disallowed for a forward pass, which he probably could have given on another day.
Oh, well, the NRL's come out now and said that try should have been given there, but if we're going to keep looking at every forward pass in every game there, it was obviously flat, and they adjudicated it was forward there. You can't take it back. If we're going to go to the bunker, like we've been talking about the bunker, try not to use it as much. So if we're going to use it forward pass and all that.
Well, Jimmy the Jet as well, getting a nice try on the right-hand wing as the Broncos really opened up in the final stages of the game, and there was a bit of an exodus of Sydney fans at about this point and from Suncorp Stadium as we were watching on. Yeah,
obviously down in the away bay there, a lot of them got up and obviously went to the bar a little bit early. But you have to just keep supporting them there, like the Roosters were the form team. You don't win all them early games there, and obviously coach will get them back at training this week. Forget about that game. Let's move on to the next game. So,
going on the result there for the Broncos, would you say that they've found their form and are genuine contenders for the title again?
Well, obviously on that form there, they're genuine contenders there. But obviously the Broncos need all the wins there, because when Origin comes up, that's when they seem to struggle a little bit there. The backup players have to come in and all that there for a few games there, and it's generally been a period where the Broncos do suffer a little bit. So that win against the Roosters hopefully will kick-start them there for the next couple of weeks there for a couple more wins, hopefully.
That's it. I think they've really got to make sure that they start winning some of those tight games as well. Obviously, the blowout was a good one to get, but they've got to start winning some of those grinding games like they have against the Cowboys. Which, as we move up to the North Queensland game, where the North Queensland Cowboys suffered a defeat at the hands of the West Tigers in one of the many upsets from the round of the NRL. Jonathan Thurston had to leave the field late in the game due to a calf injury. Bomber, what did you think of the win for the new coach Ivan Cleary? He'd probably be pretty happy to see them turn things around, especially against one of the competition heavyweights.
Well, obviously taking over the West Tigers there. Obviously the first game as coach, you wouldn't want to be playing the Cowboys up there. That'd be one of the hardest games to get. But obviously he switched them on there. Whether the players didn't like Jason Taylor or not, I don't know. They're like, you should be playing football it doesn't matter who's the coach. You're there to play football. So, but if you watch the game there, it just seemed a completely different West Tigers team.
And with the drama with Mitchell Moses during the week as well, you would have thought it would be a more disjointed effort from the Tigers up there.
Well, Mitchell Moses got man of the match apparently up there in that game there. So for a young kid, after saying he wanted to leave, he signed with Parramatta next year there, you'd be thinking that that had happened. But obviously his mindset was right.
Excellent. Well, it was definitely a good win for the West Tigers fans who've had to go through a fair bit of drama recently with player movement and a new coach. But as we look at the highlights, they really backed themselves, and Mitchell Moses putting a try assist in there. I think Nofaluma's been in great form for them as well. Kalen Ponga, obviously another star for the game in the future for the Newcastle Knights as of next season. But he showed his class once again. Oh,
he's a talent. You don't pay that much money for a young player if he hasn't got talent, and obviously by that talent, he's just showing it when he gets a run up there.
Now the surprise packet, as we see, is Cohen Hess. He's a big boy. He's got plenty of leg drive, but he's really started the competition in great form, even though he's coming off the bench now.
Oh, well, like I said earlier with the front rowers there, they're not supposed to score tries. I think he's scored more tries than half the backs at most clubs, Cohen Hess. I think he's got about 5 or 6 tries.
Yeah, so. Between him and Paul Vaughan for the Dragons, they've had a bumper start to the season. It's good to see the big man.
And like you said, he's a bench player, so he's not out there early there. He comes on, and obviously his impact is to run hard at some tight defence, and that's what he does there, and he's got great leg drive. So.
Now, a big talking point coming out of that loss for North Queensland was the loss of their skipper, JT, and that really throws a spanner in the works for the Origin selections as well, doesn't it? Oh,
well, at first reports there, I think everybody goes, oh, New South Wales are going to win now there. I looked at the odds there. They suspended the odds as soon as he was on the sideline there, but then they brought him back up, and Queensland were wheeled out a little bit there, and New South wheeled a little bit in, but you never underestimate JT there. Reports now say he's out for a month, so he'll be back before Origin. So,
does that show just how much of an impact he has on the Origin? If you're already suspending bets as soon as one player goes down, does that show what kind of impact he has on the series?
Well, it's just JT in general there. He's the best player in the game there. So if he's out for the Cowboys, you'll see the Cowboys will be wound out as well. Like they've already lost a few with Matt Scott as well. So if they lose JT for so much longer, like they're like the Broncos too now, Origin time there, they'll lose a few players there, so they need a few wins. So without him for the month there, they'll be hoping for a couple of wins over the next couple of weeks. So.
Well, as we talk about injuries that are going to affect a few teams, you mentioned the Brisbane Broncos and Ben Hunt leaving the field with a suspected hamstring injury as well. He's looking at a few weeks on the sidelines himself.
Yeah, well, that's right. About 6 to 8 weeks maybe on the sideline there. So it obviously gives Cody Nikorima, who did get a run last week for the Broncos. So obviously he'll probably have the upper hand there and probably get the run on spot for the next couple of weeks. So.
Well, injuries in the NRL in 2017, it's only 6 rounds in, and there's been a number of injuries for every team. Just over the weekend alone, we saw Jonathan Thurston, Ben Hunt, Corey Oates, Corbin Sims, David Klimmer, Tyson Frizzell, just to name a few, had some serious injuries and are facing stints on the sideline. Bomber, with all the injuries for the NRL clubs, especially Queensland and New South Wales, what does this mean not only for the clubs but for the upcoming State of Origin competition?
Well, obviously, the less injuries you got, obviously, the better you're going to perform. And they always say the team with the less injuries normally makes the grand final and all that. They're like the Sharks didn't have too many injuries last year there to win the title there, and the Cowboys didn't have too many injuries there. But in saying that, the Titans obviously they've been the hardest hit this year. They've lost about 8 starting players from their side there, but they're still putting in. So.
I guess that's what you want to see from your team is everyone's still competing even without the loss of some of your big names. Jared Hayne, Nathan Peets, 2 of the big names yet to come back into the side. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll see some of those guys back on the field.
Yeah, well obviously they'll be back, but if you look at other teams there, they're just the same. Like obviously South lost Greg Inglis earlier in the year there. The West Tigers have lost Luke Brooks there. Dylan Napper's gone from the Roosters there. So some big names, obviously Benji there. Bevan French for Parramatta. So Josh Mansour at the Panthers. So
it does seem to have a big impact on the form of teams. Last year we saw the Manly Sea Eagles struggle throughout most of the season with a huge list of injuries that just didn't seem to go away. This year they've only got I think 2 injuries at the moment, with Uate and Marty Tapau in a little bit of doubt. But they've had a great start to the season, unfortunately with the loss against the Dragons on the weekend, but great start.
Yeah, well obviously Manly are a little bit of the surprise packet. They lost their first 2 games and then obviously went on a bit of a run. The weekend obviously wasn't their best result, going down to the Dragons 35-10, but obviously like like we're saying, injuries there. Injuries can be good for you there. It obviously brings a new player in there, as long as that new player that comes in takes a chance and all that there, which some players have done. So.
Well, it was, I guess, for the Storm with Cameron Munster, who's been playing fantastically at fullback. He went out with a broken jaw, and Billy Slater slotted right back in. I guess some teams have been lucky with big names being able to come in at the right times.
Well, when you get replaced by Billy Slater there, obviously you're not going backwards there. Like you lost your fullback from last year, and you're replaced with Billy Slater.
Yeah, a Golden Boot winner. Well, we hope a speedy recovery for all the players we've mentioned so far. Coming up next on the show, we'll be previewing all the action in the Intrust Super Cup and the Rugby League Ipswich competition here on After the 80. Welcome back to After the 80, your local source of everything rugby league. And round 5 of the Rugby League Ipswich Competition will be kicking off a little bit early on Thursday night, with the Goodna Eagles taking on the West End Bulldogs and the Brothers Ipswich hosting Norths Tigers. Bomber, with West End yet to win a game this season, taking on the reigning premiers, what do you think their chances are this week? Well,
obviously West End were very competitive last week against Brothers there. They reckon they went really well there, a couple of drop balls there, but obviously from the Goodna game, it was a little bit, like I said earlier, the Goodna for 60 minutes there were very ordinary, and then they really kicked in there. So if the last 20 minutes turn up for the whole game for Goodna, West End are going to be hard pressed to win. But
if the first 60 turn up, though, West End might cause an upset.
Well, that's right. That's right. So.
Well, and we've had the final game of the round, which is the Fassifern Bombers and the Eastern Cobras, has been put off. Do you know when that's being replayed?
It's been postponed apparently. I don't know officially yet, but maybe before Ipswich Cup. So, and then obviously Brothers are playing Norths.
Moved that game early as well.
It's on Thursday as well at 7 p.m. So
that's a lot of football in about 9 days, I guess. 3 games. That's it's going to be tough on the players, but I'm sure they'll be looking forward to a long weekend off as well.
Well, it's all right for probably the 5'8" and the centres and the wingers and fullbacks there, but the forwards are the ones that obviously get bashed each week there. So 3 games, like you said, in 9 days is a little bit tough. But I suppose after this game, they've got Easter off with their families, and that's probably why the games have been moved, I presume. So
and they'll have a longer turnaround until the next round as well. Playing on the Thursday, they won't have to back up until the following Saturday.
Yeah, well, obviously they've done that before early when the game was washed out. Obviously the washed out has caused all this problem. So. So they've had a bit of a break, they've had a hard run and then a bit of a break again. So,
Well, as you said, it's been a little bit scrappy from all teams, I think, for the start of the season, just getting combinations together and not dropping ball and making silly errors. So I guess a bit of a baptism by fire is probably not the worst thing for a few of the coaches out there.
No, well, that's right there. The players want to play football. They want to get out onto the field there. So obviously the officials dictate when they play there. So obviously the players are ready, and Thursday night, like midweek football, it's good going out to watch midweek football. So we've got 2 games this Thursday night too. So I'll obviously get the Goodna or get the Brothers. Yeah, it's a good way to start the long weekend with a bit of football on a Thursday night after work. I guess as we've already touched on the first game with Brothers hosting North, they're 2 grand final rivals for the last few years. I think 2014, 2015. So it's always a good contest between these 2 teams. Yeah, well, obviously they would have liked to play this on Sunday sometime, because obviously they get a good crowd, but obviously the players need a break too over the Easter thing. So, yeah, but well, obviously North went really well last game. They'll come into it probably a bit fresh from having the bye on the weekend. So, so as long as Brothers can hold them there, probably the last 20 minutes, North will be coming hard. So. And for Swifts as well, after a bit of a tough loss there, as we mentioned, against the Fassifern Bombers on the weekend, Stephen O'Connell and the team, they'll be pretty happy that they get a bit of an extended break until they have to come back. Yeah, well, it obviously gives them 2 weeks off now, so they get all this week off and then all the following week. So a 12, 13-day break after a loss like that there obviously will give them time to get back on the field and get things right. So. And put some hard yards into training, I'd imagine, as well. I think they've weren't too lucky with pre-season trial games before the season started, so I'm sure they'll be looking forward to getting a bit more time on the paddock together. Yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure Steve-O will enjoy this bit of a break too. So. Well, now to the Intrust Super Cup, and round 7 will be kicking off with the Burleigh Bears travelling up to Townsville to take on the Townsville Blackhawks. Bomber Burleigh coming off the back of a much-needed win on the weekend. How do you predict they're going to go against a strong Blackhawks team, which features the leading point scorer for the competition, ex-Ipswich Jets, Carlin Anderson? Well, the Blackhawks have had a bit of mixed form this year. They've got the team to win the competition there. So, and obviously Burleigh, the win last week there, a win does wonders to your form there and your confidence and all there. So they'll go up there thinking they're a chance, and obviously next week we'll find out whether they were a chance or not. So. That's it. Well, another few big games on the weekend as well. The PNG Hunters hosting the Redcliffe Dolphins at the National Football Stadium. That's going to be a good test for the Dolphins after a good start to the season. Yeah, well, obviously Redcliffe have taken all before them this season. They're the form team. They've looked really good in every game there. So obviously travelling over to PNG, it's probably one of the toughest away games you go over there's not too many people in the crowd cheering for you.
That's it. So it's a good test for every team to go over there, isn't it? The PNG Hunters seem to love playing in front of their home crowd. Oh,
well, it's an institution in PNG, and the crowds turn up all there, and it's a really good atmosphere there. It's a fiery atmosphere there, but it's a good experience for all the Australian players to get over there and have a game at their new stadium.
Now, for the Ipswich Jets, they travel up north to take on the Northern Pride, who are only sitting a few rungs ahead of them on the Intrust Super Cup ladder. Do you see this after the back of their performance against East Tigers, where they really pushed, who were coming third going into the competition, going into the weekend's contest as well? Do you see them taking that confidence from pushing them so far into the game this weekend?
Well, yeah, well, I do actually. After the last two games, the Jets haven't obviously tasted victory, but they have gone reasonably well. So.
Mm-hmm. It was good to see Chris Ash. He came off the bench against the Redcliffe Dolphins last weekend, and then on the weekend he started for the Ipswich Jets in the halves there, and really seems to give them a lot of spark at home, especially. He's Ipswich junior as well. He loves playing at home, so. Would you see Ben and Shane mixing up the halves combination again? They've got Dane Phillips, Luke Catewell and Chris Ash and Makari Beattie in there as well. That's a lot of ball players.
Yeah, well, like I said, the last couple of weeks there, when Ash has been there, he just seemed to give him a bit more punch up the middle, a bit more go and all that there, and he's got a great wide pass. So I'm tipping the Jets to win this week. So.
Yeah, and you see another big game for their big men as well. Nate Neal, Billy McConaughey, they've been in great form, and I think mentioning the wingers as well, with Richard Pandia and Michael Purcell have both been on form with the try scoring list.
Well, in most games there, if your forwards are going forwards, your backs get a lot more latitude there, and as you can get the ball out to, like I said, Pandia, the Conlons, the Purcell, they're the speedsters. That's where you've got to get the ball to them early and let them do their magic. So.
Well, I'm sure the Ipswich Jets players would like to be starting their own Easter break with another win for the season. That'd take a bit of pressure off both themselves and the coaches, Ben and Shane Walker. But that's all we have time for us today. Thanks for gracing us with your presence, Bomber. We know how precious your time is from the Secretary of the Ipswich Referees Association. Thanks for coming on board again.
Well, you obviously would have been of the appointments board. I better not say that, otherwise Julie will be up me for thinking that I'm the president there. I look after the appointments, so all that there. But it would have been very lonely you sitting here by yourself, Ben. So.
Well, thank you for all the hard-working team behind the After the 80 crew. We look forward to seeing you again same time next week here on After the 80.